Merits of the Fathers. Let us look at the importance of the good deeds of the forefathers according to the Scriptures, which is called the merits of the fathers Zekathabath in Hebrew. How did God keep the kindness up to the 1000th generation, and who was the 1000th generation? It is written Ex 34-7, keeping kindness unto the 1000th generation. In Exodus 32 verses 13-14 the Bible reads, Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel your servants. 14 So the Lord relented from the harm which he said he would do to the people. This the time when Israel sinned the sin of the golden calf, and Moses reminded God to consider the merits of the forefather Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and God forgave them. Zekathabath is a term implying the benefits bestowed upon men in consideration of the virtues and righteousness of their ancestors, and is based upon the passage in the Bible, keeping kindness unto the 1000th generation, etc., Ex 34:7. According to the book of Exodus 34 verse 7, God bestowed favors upon Israel basing on the merits of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which were mercy, grace, long-suffering, and bounding in goodness and truth only up to a 1000th generation. King Hezekiah was the 1000th generation king, which means he was the last generation covered in the covenant of favors of the forefathers. So what happened after the death of Hezekiah? An evil son Manasseh succeeded his father, laying an evil foundation that provoked a covenant of curse from the 4th generation according to the 13 attributes of mercy in Ex 34-7. But did not God make a lasting covenant with Abraham in Gen 15:18? Yes, but the covenant God made with Abraham and his descendants was of the covenant of love and the land. On that same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, To your descendants I have given this land. When we look at the 13 attributes of mercy in Ex 34-7, by no means clearing the guilt, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and the children's children to the 3rd and 4th generation. Manasseh laid an evil foundation after the death of his father, the last king, under the 1000th generation covenant, provoking a guilt upon Israel from the 4th generation. This we see in the kings that succeeded him. From Manasseh, who did evil in the eyes of God, followed his son Amon, who also did evil. Then came Josiah, who did right in the eyes of God, who after his death was succeeded by his son Jehoahaz, who also did evil, and the verdict was passed after the 4th generation, and that generation was followed by last king of the southern kingdom, King Jehoiakim, who also did evil in the sight of God. Jerusalem was destroyed, the temple demolished, and Israel taken into captivity. So how was Israel supposed to survive without the merits of the fathers from the time of Hezekiah? Isaiah 9 verse 7 says, To order it and establish it with justice and righteousness from that time forward. Forever, the zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform it. Implying that after that the favors of the Lord will not be bestowed by virtue of Zekathabath, but through his zeal. We hear the warning of God echoed again and again to Israel, Exercise justice and righteousness, and you will be established. But Israel never heeded, and God had to visit the iniquity of Israel from the time of Manasseh up to Jehoiakim, which was exactly 4 generations. Here are my 2 conclusions that help me put them together. 1. The sins of the fathers are punished in the children through becoming the sins of the children. I, the Lord, visit the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the 3rd and the 4th generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. Exodus 20 verse 5, Numbers 14:18. The generations to come who experience the penalty of the fathers' sins are those who hate God. We are not told how the fathers' sins become the children's sins. But what we are told is that when the father's sins are visited on the children, it is because the children are really sinful. That is the form in which the father's sins are visited. Therefore, all judgment is really deserved by the person who is punished. 2. Because of God's grace, which is finally secured by Christ, the children can confess their own sins and the sins of their fathers and be forgiven and accepted by God. But if they confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers, if then their uncircumcised heart is humbled and they make amends for their iniquity, then I will remember my covenant with Jacob. Leviticus 26 verses 40-42. The precious words of Exodus 34 verses 6-7 are not nullified by the generational migration of sin. The Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, keeping steadfast love for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin. Thank you for watching.